Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Cowboy, 8:30 a.m. EST on Tuesday, and we're jumping right into it here. We got Bitcoin on the charts having made a double bottom. That's good news for at least the short term. This double bottom is going to be at the tail end of what is now let's see, today is the 4th. So a 14-day, a 2-week consolidation. Now, this is a low-level consolidation. The greater consolidation that we're looking at goes back to November. Right, it's been floating around, say 90,000 or so, and it's topped out roughly at about 108 a couple of times. Really, the true top was 109, but the general range, it could be looked at a couple of different ways. These might be deviations at the top. Sometimes these ranges are a bit subjective, but I would say as I unlock this, let's see here. Interesting. Oh, there it is. So the range could be looked at this way, but it just makes a lot more sense with the top of the range being either at 106, 107, 108. So I'm going to keep it where I had it. We're going to go along with that as a thesis for the range, for the broader range. But in the meantime, you see this little tiny block right there. That's what we're looking at. We have a double bottom at the very end of that. So in the big scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're looking at this greater range, a breakout to the downside would be price heading to the bottom of this range again after not having visited the top. So what does that mean? It's just a fair bit of bearishness if that happens, right? Price made its way to the top, came back to the bottom. It did make an attempt to the top, double bottomed here, and then made its way to the top there. This is the greater range, not the little one we're talking about right now, but the greater range. So now you have price heading down. We could see a little bit of a revisit to that bottom or not, but until price breaks below 90,000 or above 108 or so, price is just kind of bouncing around and sideways. And I know a lot of people are saying we're at this part of the bull market or that or whatever it is. Well, here's the reality. Until price either breaks top or bottom, then it's really pretty difficult to have any idea what's going to happen, right? A lot of people are thinking a topside breakout. A lot of people are thinking the price will maybe bounce on the bottom or not. It might just head up to here and then maybe break out to topside and go for the rest of the bull market. We see all the big high prices for the rest of the year. There is always that chance the price makes its way down to here and bounces down. We have a breakout downside, bottom side, however you want to say it. But there's also that chance that we see a nice bounce like this as it attempts to break out bottom side, but then is rejected at 90,000, added as it has been so many times going back to November. And a lot of range traders will simply enter the bottom as soon as price hits that 90,000 or whatever your area is, 90,700, however you're drawing your range. And it would not be an unwise thing to do. Conversely, if price were to make its way to the top up here and then fall like this, that's another great range trade. It would make a lot of sense to do that, and the range traders would simply do that. But for now, as we zoom in, we do have a decent thesis that price will rise to 98,000 before it does anything else. And this is pretty much following what I said it would do. I did say that I expected price to make its way down to the bottom here and make its way down to the bottom. It did. The wag was, I thought it would have a little more bullishness than it did. It was more of a straight line, but it made its way to the bottom and bounced as I did predict. It just did it quicker than I thought. And the most likely thing to happen next is for price to make its way up to about 98,500. So I might be looking at some scalp longs in the meantime. Today, we do have a little bit of news that could mess with price. We have Trump talking. So, that can always mess with the price of any market, especially Bitcoin, because everybody is, Trump's very vocal about Bitcoin. So if you look at the calendar here today, you'll see that he speaks, and we're not given a time as to when that is. It's tentative. So that means that it may not happen at all. It means that it might happen at an unknown time, certainly. So let's move on, and we're going to jump into the Forex charts before we look at anything else, because we had some Canadian news this morning. We had the Canadian CPI come out. Now, I did predict before live that the Canadian dollar would possibly head down. I had a few different predictions. It was either going to bounce in this consolidation just like we talked about with Bitcoin, or it was going to break downside. And downside break it did, and I made money on this. I actually shorted once this broke down below the bottom of this range, which really truly is actually down about here. And that was a great trade for me. In the meantime, it does look as if it's going to follow what I originally drew going back to 23rd January. So we're getting on a month ago that I drew this. And of course, there's a couple of different paths this took. It obviously had this massive deviation here that I didn't plan for. But all in all, it has come back to what I'm looking at as the mean, more or less, kind of a mean regression as to what price should be doing based on the high time frame. So I do expect the Canadian dollar right now to possibly grind its way up. It might have a pullback or two, but grind its way up to this 142.75. So, and again, the CPI came out already. Let's see what the data is on that in Forex Factory. So the Tuesday, let's see, Canadian. So everything was a little bit warm. Inflation was a little bit higher, not terribly much higher than what is expected, but that's a hot print technically. So a hot print, what that means is that there's a little bit of inflation, right? And if there's a little bit of inflation, then they're going to want to keep that down technically. The Bank of Canada should want to go ahead and say, okay, we got to tamp down on inflation, so we're going to keep rates higher or even hike them, which would put pressure on the Canadian dollar to be stronger. And technically on this chart, that would actually push this chart downwards. Now, we might only see that on the very low time frame. So let's go ahead and jump down and see. Yeah, we do see just a little bit of a move down based on that news, a spike downward. You can see the price really pounded down there, and it's already starting to recover from that. So it doesn't look like it's a very big news move, and it looks as if price will resume its move upwards. So once this is digested, which really could be pretty quickly, I might be looking for some longs, but one thing I'll do is I'll be looking to maybe buy the breakout from this range. I don't like buying large trades inside of ranges, which is kind of what's happening here. It's not very clean, but I would at least want to see price break out here. Unless I was scalping, I could scalp inside of what appears to be this consolidation forming. Another way to look at this would be that it moved down to grab, it moved down quickly to grab this liquidity right there and pop back up. There's not a lot of room for profit on the way up here. We're on a low time frame already. So again, I would like to see this break out before I really did much with it. And I have been trading the Canadian lately. There is a fair amount of volatility and some predictability. So I do expect to see something along maybe these lines right here. Break out, and then maybe an opportunity to get along in there. Let me take a brief look at the other time frames. Yeah, I expect to see what I drew, maybe a little more aggressive than I originally drew here. So maybe something more like this. There. So a little bit quicker, but still a bit of a grind upwards. Okay. So let me take a look at the comments. We got Lisa. Yeah, well, it looks like, pennies are going to go the way of the dodo. We'll see about that. I know a lot of my kind of more alarmist friends are concerned, oh, they're going to get rid of cash. And I doubt it. It could happen. I know it's on the agenda of some, but I don't think we're going to see them get rid of cash just yet. Pennies cost a lot of money. I don't know, whatever. Like, here's the deal. Either going to get rid of pennies or not. You want to go protest it, right? If they're going to get rid of pennies, then do whatever you got to do. I don't know. Figure out a way for that not to be a problem for you. I don't understand why it's news. I guess people just care about some things. They're not material. So let's take a brief look at the SP 500 as a general bellwether and just doing exactly what I said it would do. I mean, the SP 500 is literally going along the path that I drew, which was a pretty easy prediction to make. We have the Dow doing something similar. Yeah, I didn't think the Dow would be ready to pop up just yet. I thought I would get a little liquidity down here, and really it did get that liquidity. If I were to map out kind of this right here, you see where you have these pivot points right there. Price is grabbing liquidity off the top here. And it looks like from an algo standpoint, will it move up yet. Let's take a look. It could. It could move up. The Dow right now does have a little more sluggishness to it, so it could go sideways or up. I don't expect it to head down necessarily, or if it does, it'll look like something that I drew and just kind of grab some local liquidity. But I think it's going to eventually pop upwards. We're just going to see how that goes. And the last thing we'll look at before we go private is the NASDAQ. And again, just doing what I said it would do right on the dot here. So it is now the end of the private live lab, or the public live lab. Thanks for watching. As you can see, I'm pretty darn good at predicting where price is going to go. And when you can do that, when you can predict where price is going to go, then you have the opportunity to extract money from the markets. And this is what we do. We take these short moves, we pull money out. We're not really about, hey, buy this one crypto and it's going to make you all this money. We're not a signal service or anything like that. We teach you how to build your own trading method that has predictable results, because like the tortoise and the hare probably gets left in the dust when they're trying to gamble on meme coins and they buy Trump coin at the top and they get screwed over, or they buy the Libra coin, or they just gamble on whatever SHIT coin out there. We're not into that. We are trading like adults at Algo Factory. So if you want to come learn to trade like an adult, like a real trader, like a hedge fund professional, then what you want to do is head over to algofactory.tech. Now, we are going to double the price. It could happen this week. It's going to happen very quickly. That's so far what we've come to. The decision's not final, but we're pretty sure we are going to double that price. So if you get in before we double the price to $99.98, which is what we're probably going to do, you can keep that $49.99 price as long as your membership does not expire, right? So you can save a ton of money by getting in right now. So please take advantage of that. It could be as soon as this week or maybe next week. It's going to happen though. So come on over to algofactory.tech. Learn to trade like a hedge fund pro, and never ever forget,
join us or die.